All right, welcome to the next expert interview. I start them all the same way. Always excited for our guests and topics. Today is close to home though, because anything that's on the sales side of the world, I'm excited to talk about and geek about. And as always, we'll let our guests introduce themselves. So, David, tell us who you are, what you do, and we'll dive into it.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Devin, and excited to get a chance to brainstorm, share some ideas, some of the things that I've learned over the last 25 years and being in business, sales, marketing, and all the things in between. But owner BDR.ai is our company. We help automate a lot of those repetitive, monotonous, boring, and sometimes just hard to find the motivation to do them, but we know that they're so critical to do to build our business. So we automate business development activities, whether it's finding targeted prospects, sending connection requests on LinkedIn, sending follow-up emails, interacting with people on LinkedIn or in other formats like email, and just putting that into an organized sequence so that things happen predictably. And then we also have some other tools that we end up providing as a way to accelerate or automate business development. So super excited to share some of the things that we're doing in the AI space and how we're leveraging BDR.ai to help, business owners, founders, coaches, consultants, solopreneurs to scale faster, easier, and better than doing it on their own or hiring a bunch of outsourced people to do it for them.
Love it. Give us a little backstory because I think you do have an interesting story on like why this company, why now. So give us a little insight into how we got here, and then we'll dive in deeper.
Yeah. So last 25 years of my life, I've been pretty much in the sales, marketing, business ownership, coaching entrepreneurs and high-level sales executives to raise their level of performance and all things considered, right? So business development, business planning, marketing, referral generation, sales, leadership, building sales teams. So that's the last 25 years of my life. I consider myself to be a people farmer. I like to help people to grow and primarily focused on entrepreneurs and helping business to business entrepreneurs primarily. Also help some B2C clients as well. Principles are the same for the most part, but sometimes you got to change up your strategy. And then my brother, who's 2 years older than me, he spent the last 20 years in the direct mail industry. He built a very successful direct mail company, actually two of them. His last one, he just had a big eight-figure exit and built it from zero to hero. Went from zero employees to 50 plus employees and zero in revenue to 40 million in revenue. And then he had a nice exit. And so, we're at midlife. He's a little bit older than I am, but we were kind of looking at like, what's next? What do we want to do next? And we really felt like our mission and our vision was to help entrepreneurs to do some of the things that we've been successful with and to be able to do it with technology because it's times have changed and people have changed. And so finding people to do some of the things that we did 25 years ago to be successful, kind of hard. And so finding new technologies and new automations and resources to help people felt like that was the thing that we really wanted to do. So BDR.ai has been around for 7 years. My brother and I are basically scaling that business just like we've scaled other businesses in the past, whether it be through clients or our own businesses. And we're super excited about the potential. We feel like we're running downhill. There's just so much available in the marketplace. I feel like a kid in a candy store, and I'm trying to eat everything in sight, and that's not helping. That's not helping me when it comes down to getting good night's sleep because I'm working half days, pick any 12 hours you choose. But there's just so much opportunity for entrepreneur-minded people to grow with automation and technology, and just helping those people just fills my cup for the end of the day.
I love that. I love that you're blending historical best practices, things that have worked, and tying that into tech because I think that's where we're seeing the struggle, right? Is it's
Mhm.
either I'm stuck in the past and doing all these historical marketing sales tactics, or I'm so bought into the technology, but I forgot best practice. And so I think there's probably a nice balance there. So let's dive into where do you see people going wrong? I like to start there. When you're meeting with someone and they're talking about their current process or current tech stack, like what are the big red flags or big holes right now?
Yeah, I'd say the most popular one right now is, if I was to ask the people that are watching this live or watching this recording, how many LinkedIn connections do you have? they would probably have a general idea of how many they have. And then if I ask the question, how many of those people match your ideal client profile target audience? And they would usually say a much smaller number than that amount. And sometimes it's 10 to 20 to 30%. I haven't had more than 30% as a common answer. Maybe there's an extraordinary person out there that's done really a good job of targeting their reach out. But when I ask them the question, which is the next question is, when was the last time you talked to those people? When was the last time that you messaged them? When was the last time you commented on their recent posts? When was the last time you endorsed their top 5 skills? When was the last time you visited their profile? You know, LinkedIn is built on algorithms, and if you aren't doing those activities, they aren't seeing your posts. And so, you know, it's really cool that you found out how to use AI and you're really doing some really cool content because AI is helping you. Or maybe you're really creative and you've created some great content for your post. The reality of it is that it moves so fast. There's 1 billion profiles on LinkedIn. And the chances of your target audience, that 10, 20, or 30% of your connections seeing your content is very, very small. And so, you know, many people, you know what they know, but they also don't know what they don't know. And much of what they do know, Devin, just isn't so. That's an old Mark Twain quote. And so just trying to bring them into reality to say, you know, it's great to be productive and to do work, but is that work actually working? And there's things, you know, I mean, you're in the business of doing it. You know the things that are high leverage activities. Many people are focused on productive work, not profitable work. So just showing them small things and then just getting, you know, some of the things that people hold on to, like, you know, the Kung Fu grip. They got a Kung Fu grip on something that really is not going to be that meaningful to them. And if they would just let go of that and they would allow automation or AI or other resources to help them, they could scale much faster. Yes, they may end up losing some aspects of personalization, but the reality of it is that they're probably not really doing that much with personalization. I think that a lot of people assume, you know, with the best intentions that they're going to do things, and they just don't because people do one thing predictably. They act unpredictable. So those are some of the things, the awakenings that we're trying to help people to see the cheese has moved. And, you know, as I'll wrap it up with this, but um, as Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, I don't know, he's worth like $100 billion or some crazy number. He makes this comment, and I think that it's something that everybody watching this video should just soak in for a bit. And he said, "You're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who does what you do better, faster, cheaper than you do with AI." And that's a reality that if you continue to put your head in the sand and you don't leverage it or you don't start to leverage it, you're going to struggle over time. It may not be tomorrow, but a year from now, you may be earning 10, 20, or 30% less than you do right now because other people are finding a way to compete with you better, faster, cheaper than what the way that you're doing it. So those are the things that like the aha moments that, you know, some people, it takes a while before they can say aha. Sometimes they're like, oh, don't say that to me. I don't want to give up this thing that's so precious to me, but precious isn't working for many of them.
Talk to me about let's go deep on that hold on to statement. I think there's definitely something there, and I hear it too, right? What are they holding on to? Is it that it's not going to be my personality? You know, I'm worried it's going to say something to the wrong person. Like what are those beliefs that are actually not true or, you know, not super relevant anymore?
Yeah, great question. And you know, I love this interactive exercise, and I'll just walk you through it for a moment because I think it's really powerful for people that go through the process. So if you take out something to write with, you could take a pen and paper and you just write out these letters in this sequence. I'll give it to you twice. So the letters are OPP, ORTUNITYISNOWHERE. I'll give it to you one more time. OPPORTUNITYISNOWHERE. And when you read that phrase out loud, it says something. And based on how you read it, dictates what it says. I don't know if you saw it or not, Devin, when I gave it, maybe I gave it to you too fast, but did it come out to you when you saw it?
Yeah, I was laughing because it's either, yeah, opportunity is now here or it's nowhere. So yes, that's I love that.
Yeah, and it's really the separation between the W and the H, right? And people are committed to the W and the H being together. They won't separate them. And that's really the kind of role that we play is helping people to see, there's sins of commission and then there's sins of omission. And so which one is worse? The sin of commission? That's what most people would say. If you do something wrong, then that's bad. But what about not doing anything at all? Many people, if you were to say, like, if you have 300 targeted prospects in your LinkedIn connections and you haven't talked to them or you haven't messaged them or you haven't liked on their post or you haven't commented on them or you haven't added value to them in some way, that's a sin of omission. You didn't do anything. And I think that that could be just as bad as not doing something perfect. And that's really what we're talking about with AI and technology for the most part. I mean, there may be a margin of really small errors where AI may say something or do something, write something that's not necessarily the perfect thing to say, and it may, be something that's off kilter. But apologies go far. And if people know that you are using a virtual assistant, you don't have to tell them that you're using AI. You can tell them you're using a virtual assistant and they made a mistake. And you know what people do? They move on with life. So, what you may lose in a mild or moderate mistake, you gain in productivity, you gain in activity, and you gain in opportunities. And so, again, that's a big part of where we're separating people and what they're holding on to. They're holding on to their precious profile, their precious, relationships, and not seeing the fact that those precious relationships are basically out of sight, out of mind. Those people are not even thinking about them because they are looking at other people's stuff. And that whole thing about AI is that your competitors, really good people, not bad people, really good people that have good education, may not be as good as you, but they're leveraging AI. And because they're using AI in a very high level and a very strategic level, they may be more consistent and persistent and value driven than you are because the technology works on autopilot. So again, that those are the kind of the facts that we debate with people on things, and some people are committed to doing it their way, and some people, I mean, there's some people in Iowa that are committed to not having electricity and not having cars. They have horse-drawn carriages and they go around the country or they do their work without any power. I'm not going to argue with them if that's what their value system is. High five, they're raising some good kids and families and it's working for them. Like what I'm saying is that if it's not working for you and you're bothered by it and you're open and curious and you have a growth mindset, I can show you some things that would be really helpful to you.
Love that. I love the example. It's funny. As you were saying that, I was sending a bunch of connections yesterday, and we template a lot of our connections, and I made the mistake of not switching genders in a couple of the emails. Like I copy and pasted segments, but I didn't realize I used he, she. And so I sent it to like a female first for an intro, and then the next two were guys. And it's like, I'm sure she would be interested, but it's like a guy, right? And I'm just sitting there chuckling at myself, like, I'm not even going to send an apology email. Like, they understand and it's fine. But I was sitting here laughing because I'm like, we're all no better, right? Like we all are rushing and typing and sending. So like it's gonna happen. And to your point, yeah, sorry, my VA, messed that up. No worries. Like I'm so glad we're here talking though, because guess what? We weren't before. So
Mhm.
I'm glad we're in a conversation. So yeah, I was
Right. And
just
if it
as
gets a
you were saying that.
response, right? Sometimes, my brother is a direct mail guy. And so we've had these conversations quite a bit because I'm more of a perfectionist. He's more of a profit driven guy. So he's kind of like, if it generates an inbound phone call and that inbound phone call leads to a sale, I don't care how pretty it looks. And he says some of the ugliest direct mail got the best responses. And so some of the most imperfect messages may be the thing that connects you to a massive influencer because they the way that you responded to their response about something that you made a mistake on is the thing that gave you trust and credibility versus the fact that you got busy with other things and you didn't send out those connections like you said you would. So then you didn't grow your business, you didn't add value to other people, which is worse? And when you look at the productivity, like the average productivity inside of a LinkedIn message or email, they say that every action on LinkedIn takes about, on average, about 30 seconds. So if you just think about the average activities that are on LinkedIn, so liking posts, endorsing skills, viewing profiles, following profiles, um, sending messages, sending an email, every single one of those things, if it cost you 30 seconds, how many of them could you actually do? Even with, putting your personal customization, it may take you a minute or 2 or 3 minutes per action if you're putting in all this extra personalization. So is quality better than quantity? That's the question, right? Can you get more done and more accomplished with more people or less people? That's where people have to come up to their own, conclusions. And I've been more of a quality versus quantity person, but I've also realized the power of technology and buying my life back and letting go of some of those concepts. And again, I had a kung fu grip on AI. I didn't want to give AI all my stuff and thinking about the orbit and everybody else has got my stuff and it's in the ether and all. But I just started to allow myself to just focus on what matters most to me. And yeah, if I make some mistake, okay, I'll move on.
Love it. Does what you're talking about, is this, does it work for cold? So new relationship building and warm. So our current network, does it work with both?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's four major targets, when you're building business development, right? So you've got your warm outreach, which you absolutely crush. And if people are willing to do warm outreach at a high level and they're consistent, committed, and persistent, yeah, you don't need to do a lot of cold outreach. That's the whole goal of warm outreach is to develop a system that works because the system works, not because you do. But most people don't have a system. That's why your system is so valuable because it gives people a system to do warm outreach. The next one would be in the area of content creation or being able to share messaging in a public domain, whether that's a blog, a podcast, a webinar, or social media content. Those are the two, one to one and one to many that are warm related. The next ones are cold outreach and paid ads. And paid ads are very expensive when you don't know what you're doing. 50% of marketing dollars is thrown in the garbage. You just don't know which 50%. So you have to go out there and test and test and test until you can prove that out. So for most people, paid for ads are not a place to go unless you have a perfected process or you have enough capital that you're willing to play that game and gamble with it. So you maximize warm outreach, you maximize free content, and then you immerse yourself in cold outreach so that you're filling your top of funnel for your warm outreach with new opportunities. So second degree connections, right? Those would be considered to be cold outreach, but in reality, they're, lukewarm. They're not super warm or hot. They're lukewarm. But if I can go out there and reach out to a person that's second degree connections with Devin and say, you know, John, hey, I saw we're mutually connected with Devin Sizemore. How do you know Devin? What are my chances of getting a response to that message? And could that message be automated? Could it be sent to 1,000 people that are connected to Devin Sizemore that I would like to be connected to, that match a certain profile, that have a certain job title, that have a certain background? Yes, the answer is yes. And I could do that. And again, I wouldn't do that in a person like without asking for permission to do that. But there's other things that you can target that are specific icebreaker conversation starters that can move cold prospects into warm conversations. And then you can qualify them and move them into your warm outreach campaigns. And then as far as warm outreach campaigns, Because you already have trust, credibility, and authority with those warm connections, you have the ability to go out there and say things that are not super specific. So because you and I are connected, you know me, like me, trust me, hopefully. If I sent you a message and said, Devin, how's business? Things moving in the right direction? Any big projects you're working on? Any connections I can help you with? If I sent you that message and it was on LinkedIn or it was an email or both, the chances of you responding to that message are really high, but it's not based upon the copy. It's based on the relationship. So again, once you have trust, credibility, and authority, you know, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, you know? So if you just say something to those people, and ideally you put that with value. So, one of my messages that I use for my first degree connection follow up is, um, hey, do you have any resources? I want to feature one of my connections and you came to mind. Do you have any content you want me to share? Do you have any videos, links, upcoming events? I'd love to share it with you. I get a high response rate on that because people are looking for help and I'm willing to help them. So I'll post their content on my LinkedIn profile because that ends up giving me the opportunity to make a relational deposit. And I'm all about building relational equity. And I can do that with technology and automation with good messaging and copywriting that's, not all about me, and, sell and tell and spray and pray. I don't do any of that stuff. I do share and care and I follow up with high tech and high touch. So I don't leave the high touch out because if you pull the high tech or the high touch out and you're all high tech, well, now you're basically cold outreach and there's no relationship, right? Because you're just giving information and hoping that people will respond. But if you follow up and follow through, you have an opportunity.
I want people to hear, there's always a segment in an interview where it's like, go back and re-listen. I would say go re-listen to that answer, but I want you to listen for the language because that was a master class in language there. And I know you only gave us a couple of the messages, but the messages were all about asking questions, engaging about the other person. And we've all received the other, right? Like I know I'm no exclusion, right? We've all received the David, it's so good to be connected with you. Hey, I was looking at your website. It's horrible. Your Google rankings suck. Here's a link. Let's talk. And you're like, huh?
Mm.
Are there any other tips on languaging that you have to kind of beat people over the head with to make sure they're doing it right?
Yeah, I would love to just use, Stephen Covey has this great quote that he says, seek to understand before being understood. And, you actually will go a lot farther with your opportunities when you're doing outreach and connections and networking. I'm preaching to the choir here, but you're going to go a lot further if you ask questions skillfully and listen carefully or read carefully, and then you follow up with follow-up questions that attract a person to want to actually have a conversation and to learn about what it is that you do. So simple messaging that I encourage is asking questions that solve or resolve or solve a problem or decrease pain. So if I'm reaching out to a specific person that's a coach or consultant, I may say, "Hey, I developed a 2025 AI guide to business prospecting with a whole bunch of strategies, tactics, and tools that help coaches and consultants to find their target audience easier, faster, and cheaper and attract more appointments and leads. Would you like me to send it over?" If they say yes to that question, what would your expectation be?
That I'm going to receive that information.
Yeah, if they say yes, I'm interested in finding clients, right? If they say no, what does that tell me? Business development is not their primary focus. So I can follow up with a new offer. If business development is not a pain or a problem, what is a pain or a problem? So a follow-up message would be, no problem, Devin. Thanks for your response. Is there any area that I could add value to you? Is there anything I can do? How can I be a better connection and connector for you? I'm always interested in learning how I can add value to the people that have accepted my connection request. And then don't leave it at that. Hey, wanted to come back and follow up to make sure you saw my message. I don't want this to feel like we just connected and that's it. I'd love to figure out ways that I can add value to you and get them to respond. And sometimes you may even have to present another offer that's irresistible. So, hey, I understand that you're not interested in learning how you can generate more leads. Would you like a quick ebook on or a quick guide on the 7 tips to retain clients and expand opportunities through referrals? No. Okay, probably not a great fit for me. But you know what? The law of averages is that LinkedIn allows you to send out 100 to 200 connection requests a week. If you send out 400 to 800 connection requests and 20% of them accepted, 20% of let's just say 700, 140 people. 140 people get the connection request. How many of those people say yes and how many of those people say no? And how many people say yes and no to the second question? So if you were to take those 140 people, or let's just say 100, and you got 20 people that said yes, would you have more opportunities than if you were to do it all on your own manually and, doing it based on your feelings, right? That's one of the things that, I have learned from a long time ago is that I don't get up every day and work according to my feelings. And so many people do. They don't work according to their goals. Their calendar does not match their goals, and they haven't come to grips with the fact they're just kind of walking around with a loser's limp and they're blaming something. They're blaming an injury, they're blaming a drama or a trauma or something going on in their life. Which again, we all go through hard things, but if you're working according to your dreams, your goals, and your aspirations, then you either do it or you find another person to do it for you, or you find automation and technology to do it for you. Those are the 3 options. There's no other options besides doing it, delegating it, or paying to automate it. So which one are you going to choose? Because if you keep choosing, I'm going to do it, and you don't, you're a liar. And I've been that liar. And that's why one of the reasons why I've been more open and curious out of a lot of kicking and screaming to try to use technology in a better way. And what's amazing is much of what I know wasn't so. I had to learn new truths. And this friend of mine, Gerhard Geschwatner from Selling Power, has this great thing where he talks about there's 3 types of belief systems. There's implanted belief systems, there's imprinted belief systems, and there's inspired belief systems. And if most people are living on implanted and imprinted belief systems, they're taking what was given to them by their family or their friends or their community or their church or school, and they're operating on their own personal experiences. They're not operating on inspired beliefs, which is the testimonials and stories of other people, or on their own faith driven acts where they tried something outside of their comfort zone and they got a different experience than what maybe they had thought about. So I can go into great detail on that, but a lot of this stuff is just mindset and motivation. It's not really based on skills and action. It's getting to the front of the bus and saying who's driving this thing and what's their attitude and what's their excitement about.
Love it. So let's talk about. I don't usually get into the offer, but I think we need to get there with you because I want people to understand what is the breadth of everything you can do for someone. So if someone comes in as a client, like what does your company and service offering look like?
Yeah, so the major 4Ds that we deliver on is data is number one. So we can help you to find your target audience that matches your ideal client profile and target audience faster, cheaper, and better than what most people can do on their own. So we can source prospects using LinkedIn, search filters, Sales Navigator. We can target groups, events, individual posts. So we've developed a high level of expertise on finding people in the 1 billion people that live and reside with a LinkedIn account. So that's the first and foremost thing. And we can also source data from all the third-party vendors without you having to have a subscription to ZoomInfo, Apollo, Infotelligent, and all the different places that provide verified and validated sourced prospects that match the filters that you're looking for. So data is number one. Number two is digital outreach, LinkedIn, email sequencing. So we can help you to connect and communicate with the people that are in your ideal client profile list at a much higher consistent pace than you could do on your own. And we have a platform where the CRM does all of the heavy lifting, and then you basically spend 1 to 2 hours a week putting your own personal follow up and follow through using the technology. We incorporate AI so that the AI actually helps you and just takes off some of the burden and helps you to create messages and responses. So again, not to say that you want to take away every aspect of, personal touch, but sometimes AI comes up with a better response to a question than you do, or a better response to an objection than you do, and then helping you with templates and just making it really easy so that your time on LinkedIn, if you're spending 15, 20 minutes a day doing business development, you're working on 5% or less of your connections rather than spending it on creating content that nobody sees. So digital outreach is number two. Number three is digital sales funnels, helping you to build out sales funnels that allows you to attract people to come to you for value and give value in exchange for information. So digital sales funnels can be lead magnets, professionally designed lead magnets, whether it be quizzes, guides, ebooks, assessments. We also can end up helping to put together the whole page and integrating it with a CRM. And then the final one is the digital dialing. So if you're looking to do more outbound dialing, because dialing is something that has worked for you in the past, we can make 100 to 150 dials an hour and connect you to 10 live conversations per hour with your targeted prospects. So if you just think about, in the last week or a month, how many conversations one-to-one have you had with targeted prospects to talk to them about what they need and what you can offer? And that could be, following up with past clients or prospects that are part of your connection pool. There's a lot of things that we can do with the digital dialer that not everybody's into outbound dialing, but it is an actual form of communication that still works. Just like my brother said, for years, people would tell him direct mail doesn't work, but he built a business that did $40 million in revenue, and companies like Quicken Loans sent him a check for $1 million a month to send out a whole bunch of direct mail. So it works for people that work it. So those are the 4 Ds: data or prospects, digital outreach, digital sales funnels, lead magnets, and then digital dialing.
Perfect. Let's talk about irresistible offers. I want to go back there. This will probably be one of the last questions, but you kind of mentioned, let's give them an irresistible offer. I think that people don't understand what makes a good lead magnet or what makes a good value proposition. So are there some elements that make a great irresistible offer that you can give to someone?
Yeah, I mean, there's an acronym that I created that helps me to remind myself of the principles that should be included in every offer. Not all of them, but it's the word cursors, CURSORS. So the first C stands for comparison. What makes your value unique, and why would somebody want to talk to you? And if you don't have a unique value proposition in your offer, you don't really have an irresistible offer. So it starts with a unique value proposition and comparing yourself to others in the market. Dominate the puddle, make sure that you're really focused on the things that you can bring to the marketplace. You don't have to be better than everybody, but you have to be unique at what you provide. The U stands for urgency, you know, some level of a deadline. So, hey, I've got limited time this particular week. Do you have some time before Friday? I've got some things that are somewhat time sensitive. I've got some things that are special offers that go through the end of the month. We've got an upcoming event that I'd love to talk to you about, and it's somewhat time sensitive because we only have a certain number of tickets and they're available until the end of the month, free, that whatever. I mean, there's so many different things you could do with urgency. The next one is reciprocity. Give people something of value in exchange for information or exchange for having a conversation. Hey, Devin, I'd love to sit down with you and talk to you about your goals and kind of what you're trying to accomplish. And after our conversation, once I've had a chance to learn more about you, I can give you a complete assessment on your digital outreach sequencing or your digital outreach performance. And I can also give you a list of 100 people that match your target audience. So give them something of value for doing something that you want them to do. The S is scarcity. Hey, and this could be something as this is one, I'm telling all my secrets. This is one that I used the other day, and I said, hey, Devin, I just checked with our client service managers, and they are like rocking and rolling this month. They have limited availability next month. And if you want to start, which is true, but again, if we had to, we could probably make room for them. But I said, if you're interested in starting next week, let's book a time today or tomorrow, because I have limited resources, I have limited time. And again, you never want to make an inauthentic or an ingenuine offer. You want it to be something that is authentic and true, but you can also craft it in a way that's, servicing your individual desires. Because if you don't have a plan for yourself, you're going to fall into the plans of other people, and your prospects don't have much plan for your success. So have a plan. So scarcity is the S, the O is opportunity. Create an exclusive opportunity. And I've seen what Devin's been doing with some of his opportunities, and he's figured out how to make things exclusive. And again, it's good to have things that are exclusive. I want to know that I qualified to attend this special event that was limited, and that you're going to invite me. I'm not saying that this is Devin's offer, but if you're going to invite me to something that's exclusive and you said, David, I wanted to invite you before I opened it up to all the other people. Let me know if you'd like to attend. I want to save this seat. And if you're not going to attend, let me know, because then I can offer it to somebody else. That's a great way to get a response from somebody if they know that it's exclusive and genuine. So exclusive offers and opportunities. The next one would be risk reduction, risk elimination, right? What can you do to completely eliminate or decrease risk through a guarantee or something that helps them to see, you know what, I'm not getting into this and taking a bunch of risk. Fear is the number one thing that most people are holding them back from taking the next step. So risk reduction, risk elimination, and then the last one is social proof. So you don't have to have all of those things to make your offer irresistible. But if I was going in there and I was just doing an evidence check, does the evidence demand a verdict of guilty? If I look at your offer, and can I look at it, and does it have any of those offers? You only need one really good one, but if you have a couple of them incorporated into your offer, I could convict you of somebody who has crafted an irresistible offer. And the truth is that most of us are not guilty. We have not done a good enough job in taking time to craft an irresistible offer. It's a very resistible offer. So when people tell me, I'm not booking a lot of appointments, I go, okay, well, let's take a look at your offer. Well, I've offered to meet him here, and I've offered to meet with him here. Well, you're asking people for 30 minutes of their time. Do you know how much their time is worth? Go around and ask people for $500 or $200 and see how that goes for you, and see how many people give you $200. You're not going to get that. Go out there and give away $100. And then when you give away $100, you ask people, hey, could I get 10 back? Guess what? Everybody would probably give you $10 back if you gave them 100. And we're talking about value. We're not talking about money, but it's not about time, right? But it is. So make sure that you're adding value and creating an irresistible offer before you come back with the request for time.
Yeah, let's just mic drop that. I love that. That was one of the cleanest, clearest, irresistible offer framings I've heard. Usually it gets so messy that people can't lean into it. And I love that you give them permission. Look, you're probably not doing any of it, so why don't we just do some of it? Just latch onto a couple and let's just hone in what you're offering just a little better.
Well, here's an easy one, and I'll just wrap it up with this, is that I'll say, hey, Devin, if I could show you a way where you could do ABC, whatever ABC, if ABC is important to you, if I could show you a way to increase your number of connections, if I could show you a way to improve your trust and credibility so you book more appointments, and you have very little to low cancellation rates, would you be willing to spend 15 minutes with me on a Zoom meeting? Again, you're attracting them with problems and pain. And then your offer is, I have time this week and next, and then I'm going to be traveling for my 27th wedding anniversary the following week. And some of the things that I want to share with you are somewhat time sensitive. Would this time work or that time work? Again, I just used scarcity. I created some value, reciprocity. I offered some value. And I used a sense of urgency with the deadline. Those three things, if I could show you a way, would you be willing to, and again, if you're not addressing their pain and their problems or their pleasure and their passion, you're probably not going to get a response that's going to justify what you would like to expect. But when you find that problem and pain, or you find that pleasure and passion, and you poke on it, people are oftentimes going to respond to a good offer.
David, I appreciate your time, man. How can people connect with you? What's the best way to reach out? Where can they go for more info? Give us all the links, details.
Yeah. Well, if you go to BDR.ai and just click on contact, you can basically get in touch with BDR.ai. And we provide our partners with opportunities for free leads. We'll pull 100 free leads that match your target audience. We'll help you to write a digital outreach playbook using AI. Very simple, but it's also very valuable to give you some perspective based upon some prompts that we've created and had a lot of success with. We'll help you to create a lead magnet that you can turn into your own lead magnet. We basically pull AI and bring some pieces together. So all of that's going to be available for anybody that reaches out before the end of the month. No, I won't. I won't do the high pressure close, but I would love to serve your team. You're doing such a cool thing in the world, and I think that you're making the world a better place. I mean, just the sign over your corner of your shoulder, the real people, real conversations, real connections. Um, we need more of that. Fortunately or unfortunately, technology is getting in the way of that. And let's, rather than use artificial intelligence, let's use augmented intelligence, and let's use AI for improving more conversations with real people and have more real conversations and have real connections so that you can kind of, sort and sift. And like I said, if you need them, you can't lead them. So if you have more of them, you have a better chance of finding the ones that need you. And that's the whole goal of our program and what we do.
Love it. We'll drop that link below. I know you're active on LinkedIn too, so can they connect with you on there?
Yep. You can connect with there. davidbushonline.com is my link tree that has all of my links. I actually wrote a couple of books, and you can look at the books that I've written, and you can also connect on BDR as well. But davidbushonline.com is just the URL that takes you to my link tree with all my social media and all that good stuff. So yeah, if you want to contact BDR.com, if you want to be just a friend on Facebook or LinkedIn connection, davidbushonline.com is the best place.
Love it. David, thank you so much, man. We covered a lot of ground. We went pretty deep on some subjects. I appreciate you. I know people are gonna go back and listen to this one a couple of times because there's some great nuggets. So thank you for your time and thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.
Yeah, if you like this video, share it with somebody that you think would benefit, and let's get the word out to more people.